If you're over 60 and still refrigerating certain common foods, you may be unintentionally ruining their flavor, damaging their nutritional value, and even increasing your risk of foodborne illness. That might sound dramatic, but the science backs it up. You see, not everything in your kitchen belongs in the fridge. In fact, several foods that most people store cold are actually better off at room temperature. Cold air can disrupt their texture, degrade vitamins, and create conditions that allow bacteria to grow faster once the food returns to room temp. According to the CDC, over 48 million Americans suffer from foodborne illnesses every year. Seniors whose immune systems naturally weaken with age are among the most vulnerable. That's why understanding which foods shouldn't be kept cold isn't just about taste, it's about protecting your long-term health. And the worst part, many of these mistakes are made with good intentions. You're trying to make things last longer, but instead, you may be making them spoil faster. In today's video, we're revealing 7 foods that seniors should never refrigerate. Some may surprise you, like number 5, which could be quietly making your meals more harmful than helpful. We'll explain what each food is, why refrigeration does more harm than good, and how to store them properly to preserve both quality and nutrition. Before we begin, let us know where you're watching from. Drop your city or state in the comments below. We love hearing how far the Senior Healthwise community reaches. And if you haven't already, take a moment to subscribe to Senior Healthwise. We post weekly videos with practical health tips, food guidance, and smart habits to help you live stronger, longer, and more confidently after 60. Let's head into the kitchen and start with a food almost everyone is refrigerating and shouldn't be. Let's begin with a food that almost always ends up in the fridge, even though it never should. If you're like most people, you probably place tomatoes in the refrigerator without a second thought, especially when they're starting to soften. But here's the problem. Refrigeration doesn't preserve the tomato, it destroys it. Tomatoes are sensitive fruits. When exposed to cold air, their natural ripening process shuts down. This process is what gives tomatoes their bright flavor, balanced acidity, and soft yet juicy texture. Inside the fridge, the cells inside the tomato break down. The result: a mealy, mushy consistency, dull flavor, and a texture that feels more like wet cotton than fresh produce. And it's not just about taste. Studies show that refrigerating tomatoes can lead to a loss of up to 60% of their vitamin C content within just a few days. For older adults who depend on tomatoes as a source of antioxidants, this matters more than most people realize. Vitamin C plays a role in immune function, wound healing, and protecting cells from oxidative damage. Things the aging body needs more than ever. Harvey, a 72-year-old from Pennsylvania, always kept a few tomatoes in his fridge drawer. He thought they'd last longer, but they never tasted right. His daughter, who grows vegetables in her backyard, finally asked him to try something different. She placed the tomatoes on a ceramic plate on his counter, away from sunlight. After just 2 days, he sliced one open and took a bite. "This reminds me of summer," he said. To store them properly, keep tomatoes at room temperature. Ideally stem side down on a flat surface to prevent bruising. Once fully ripe, use them within 2 to 3 days. If you have extras, make a simple sauce or salsa. Your taste buds and your body will thank you. Because a tomato isn't just an ingredient. It's a moment of real flavor, and it deserves to be treated right. Once you've got a ripe tomato ready to slice, the next thing you reach for is probably a loaf of bread, a sandwich, some toast, or maybe a little olive oil and sea salt. But if that bread comes out of the fridge, what should be a soft, comforting bite might turn into something dry, stiff, and disappointing. Most people refrigerate bread with good intentions. They're trying to stop mold. But what they don't realize is that cold air causes bread to go stale faster. It's not just about moisture, it's about starch. Bread contains natural starches that reorganize when chilled. The process called retrogradation pulls moisture out of the loaf and turns a fluffy interior into a crumbly, hardened mess. The result: toast that tastes like cardboard sandwiches that fall apart. And for seniors, especially those with dentures or sensitive teeth, it's more than a nuisance. It's a barrier to enjoying food. Judith, a 74-year-old from Arizona, used to keep her multigrain bread in the fridge, like she always had. I thought I was doing the right thing, she said, but breakfast started to feel like a chore. It wasn't until her son brought over a fresh loaf from the bakery and left it on the counter that she noticed the difference. It was soft, even after 2 days. I didn't need to toast it, just to chew, to keep bread at its best store. Eat at room temperature in a cool, dry place. A bread box or a cloth bag works well. If you won't eat it within a few days, slice and freeze it. Frozen bread toasts beautifully and keeps its softness when done right. Because bread isn't just a filler, it's part of what makes a meal feel like home. And a small change in storage can bring back something you didn't even realize you'd lost. After your bread is toasted and the butter is melting, many seniors reach for one last ingredient to complete the morning ritual: a cup of coffee. That warm, comforting aroma, the gentle boost of clarity, the feeling of familiarity. But for some reason, it doesn't always taste the same. If your coffee has started to feel dull flat or oddly bitter, the issue might not be the brand. It might be the fridge coffee. Whether ground or whole bean should never be stored in the refrigerator. The reason is simple. Coffee is hygroscopic, meaning it naturally absorbs moisture and odors from its surroundings. Inside a fridge where you're likely storing garlic leftovers or cheese, coffee becomes a sponge. It pulls in unwanted smells and humidity, which slowly degrade the essential oils that give coffee its flavor and body. When that happens, even high-end beans start to taste lifeless, and for seniors whose sense of taste becomes more sensitive to bitterness with age, this can make morning coffee feel more like a chore than a joy. Paul, a 70-year-old retired postal worker from New Jersey, had been storing his favorite dark roast in the fridge for years. I thought I was preserving it, he said. But over time, his coffee started to taste musty and thin. His daughter, who worked at a cafe in town, noticed what was going on. She bought him a simple opaque jar and told him to keep it in a cabinet. Within days, he called her back. It actually tastes like coffee again. To store coffee properly, keep it in an airtight opaque container away from heat, light and moisture. A kitchen cabinet or pantry works best. And if you buy in bulk, freeze only once using sealed bags and never refreeze. Because coffee isn't just a drink, it's part of your morning rhythm, and it deserves to be preserved with care. Garlic is one of those ingredients that seems almost indestructible. It's firm, dry, and intensely aromatic. That's probably why many people think tossing it into the fridge is harmless. But garlic, when stored cold, doesn't just lose flavor, it can actually become dangerous. Fresh garlic needs dry, circulating air to stay stable. When it's placed in the moist environment of a refrigerator, it begins to sprout more quickly, its texture becomes rubbery, and its signature flavor starts to fade. But the bigger problem is this: cold storage can create the ideal conditions for botulism bacteria to grow, especially if the garlic is stored peeled or minced in oil. And botulism isn't just unpleasant, it's life-threatening. Seniors are particularly vulnerable to foodborne bacteria like Clostridium botulinum because their digestive systems can be slower and less acidic, making it easier for the bacteria to take hold. What may seem like mild stomach discomfort in a younger person can become a serious infection in someone over 60. Margie, a 75-year-old from Tennessee, used to prep garlic in bulk. She would peel and blend whole bulbs with olive oil and keep the mix in the fridge, thinking it saved time. But one evening after dinner, she developed nausea, dizziness, and fatigue. Her doctor suspected mild foodborne illness linked to improperly stored garlic paste. Now Margie uses fresh cloves as needed and stores whole bulbs in a basket on the counter, away from sunlight. To store garlic properly, keep the whole bulb in a mesh bag or open container at room temperature. Never refrigerate peeled garlic, and never store garlic in oil unless it's prepared with preservatives and refrigerated for a very short time. Your safest bet is fresh, whole, and dry, because garlic isn't just seasoning, it's medicine, it's flavor, and when handled with care, it's one of the most powerful health boosters in your kitchen. Now let's talk about a food that's often tossed into the refrigerator without a second thought. Potatoes. They seem hearty, durable, and built to last. But putting potatoes in the fridge doesn't preserve them. It sets off a chain reaction that makes them less nutritious and potentially harmful. When stored in cold temperatures, the starches in potatoes begin to convert into sugars. This might not sound like a big deal, but when those sugars are later cooked, especially during frying, baking, or roasting, they can react to form acrylamide, a chemical compound that has been linked to increased cancer risk. For seniors who may already be managing multiple health conditions, this kind of exposure is best avoided. On top of that, refrigeration promotes sprouting. As sprouts grow, levels of solanine, a natural toxin found in potatoes, also increase. Consuming too much solanine can cause nausea, confusion, and even neurological symptoms. And older adults may be less able to tolerate its effects, even at relatively low doses. Dennis, a 76-year-old from Ohio, used to keep his potatoes in the fridge thinking it would slow spoilage. But he noticed that his mashed potatoes started tasting oddly sweet. Then he read about acrylamide and solanine in a health newsletter. Since then, he's been storing potatoes in a paper bag in his pantry and hasn't looked back. They last longer than I expected, and they taste like they're supposed to, he says. To store potatoes, safely keep them in a cool, dark, well-ventilated place, like a cupboard or pantry. Never refrigerate them, and avoid plastic bags that trap moisture. If they start sprouting, cut away the sprouts and any green areas before cooking, or toss them if they're too far gone. Because potatoes are comfort food, but they should comfort your body, not compromise your health. Now let's shift from starches to fats with a pantry staple that's often misunderstood: olive oil. Many seniors keep their bottle in the refrigerator thinking it will make it last longer. After all, it's an expensive item and wasting it feels wrong. But refrigerating olive oil is one of the quickest ways to ruin both its flavor and its health benefits. Cold temperatures cause olive oil to solidify and become cloudy. While this doesn't make it unsafe to eat, it does alter the texture and make it more difficult to use. More importantly, storing olive oil in the fridge can speed up oxidation when it's repeatedly taken in and out. Oxidation breaks down the polyphenols, those antioxidant compounds that make olive oil so heart-healthy in the first place. And once olive oil oxidizes, it turns rancid. The taste becomes bitter, metallic, or even sour. Worse, rancid oil can introduce harmful free radicals into the body, exactly the opposite of what this oil is supposed to do. For seniors managing heart health or inflammation, rancid oils can quietly work against progress. Rita, a 69-year-old from California, used to keep her good olive oil in the fridge. I didn't want it to go bad, she said, but she noticed her salads started tasting off. Her granddaughter, studying nutrition at college, checked the bottle and explained what had happened. Rita now stores her oil in a dark cabinet in a tinted glass bottle, and she swears her vinaigrette has never tasted better. To preserve olive oil, properly keep it in a cool, dark place, like a pantry or cabinet away from the stove. Use a dark glass or stainless steel container, always tightly sealed, and avoid buying in bulk unless you use it regularly, because olive oil is more than a cooking ingredient. It's a gift to your heart, and it deserves to be treated with the same care you give your health. Let's wrap up with a sweet favorite that many seniors keep in the fridge without realizing the consequences: honey. Whether you use it in tea on toast or just a spoonful to soothe your throat, honey is often thought of as a shelf-stable food. And it is, if you store it the right way. When placed in the refrigerator, honey quickly begins to crystallize. Its natural sugars start to solidify, turning smooth golden syrup into a gritty, grainy paste. This doesn't mean the honey is spoiled, but it does become harder to scoop, spread, and enjoy. More importantly, cold temperatures can degrade the natural enzymes and beneficial compounds in raw or minimally processed honey, stripping away much of what makes it valuable in the first place. Honey has been used for centuries as a natural remedy for coughs, sore throats, and even wound healing. But those benefits depend on its delicate compounds staying intact. Once they're damaged, all that remains is sugar. Joan, a 73-year-old from Oregon, used to keep her clover honey in the fridge because she didn't want ants in the kitchen. But over time, it hardened so much she had to scrape it out with a knife. After watching a health video, she decided to try leaving it in a tightly sealed jar in her pantry. Not only did it stay smooth, but her morning tea tasted noticeably better. To store honey properly, keep it at room temperature in a sealed glass jar, away from heat and sunlight. Never refrigerate it, and avoid plastic containers. If possible, they can leach chemicals over time, especially in warmer climates, because honey isn't just a sweetener. It's nature's medicine, loaded with antioxidants, enzymes, and healing potential. Treat it with care, and it will return the favor in every spoonful. As you've seen today, some of the most common foods we store in the fridge don't belong there at all. From tomatoes to honey, each of these foods has specific needs that cold storage can't meet. While it may seem convenient, storing food improperly can lead to a loss of flavor nutrients and even introduce harmful bacteria into your meals. So the next time you're about to place something in the fridge, ask yourself, is this the best place for it? Simple changes in how you store food can make a big difference in both taste and health. You don't have to be perfect, but understanding the needs of what's in your kitchen will help you make smarter, healthier choices for the long run. Keep your food fresh, and it will keep you healthier.